Today we learn sampling and sampling methods. Sampling is a part of our daily life routine. We don't realize it, but we are actually using it frequently, consciously or unconsciously. For instance, a housewife tastes only a small quantity of rice from cooking pan and decides whether the rice is cooked or not. Similarly, a manufacturer of a product takes a few items to decide the desired specification. And a doctor takes few drops of blood to test the whole body. In all these situations, we have seen that the doctor, manufacturer and housewife taking only a part to estimate whole information. And that's actually the sampling. And we define sampling is a procedure of selecting a representative sample from population to make inference about population. A sample must be representative of target population to get satisfactory results. So in this video, we will learn the advantages of sampling and then several methods for selecting a sample, which will further divide into subtypes. When population is small, it is a straightforward exercise to collect the information from each and every element in the population. But when population is infinite and the results are required in a short time with limited resources, particularly in money and trained persons, then sampling becomes an unavoidable term. Definitely, sampling involves less amount of time to study the elements so that it requires less expenses and labor force. It also poses accuracy as a properly designed and carefully executed sampling method will provide adequate results. And by taking only a desired information, it is also feasible for us. For example, a whole pot of soup need not to be tested whether it is properly cooked or not. Obviously, if all the pot of soup is tested, none would be available for sale or use. And actually, these are some advantages of sampling. Given all these benefits, it would not be wrong to say that the foremost purpose of sampling is to gather maximum information about the population with minimum cost, time, and human power. And by sampling methods, we mean the criteria through which the required number of elements are selected in a sample from population prior to collecting any data. There are two basic methods of sampling. The very first one is non-probability sampling and the next one is probability sampling. In non-probability sampling, personal judgment determines which elements of the population are to be selected for sample. Due to the involvement of factor of personal judgment, it is also called non-random sampling. Here we cannot assign probability to the elements of the population of its being included in the sample. Whereas in probability sampling, each element has non-zero but not be necessarily equal chance of being included in this sample, so that the factor of personal judgment is eliminated here. That's why it is also called random sampling. Here we have some chances of elements of being included in this sample. These methods are further divided into subtypes, as there are four basic types of non-probability sampling. The first one is convenient sampling. In convenient sampling, sample is obtained that is conveniently available. So it means in convenient sampling, we can quickly gather the data. For example, interview fuel brand's performance from only one petrol station that is available, rather than selecting a number of petrol stations. Similarly, select items for inspection of a specific brand from only one shift instead of number of shifts. In judgment sampling, personal judgment determines the best elements included in the sample with respect to specific objectives. For example, only international coaches are selected for interviews to coach national team. Similarly, only labor union leaders are selected instead of general workers to respond to the working condition in an industry. The quota sampling is used to include the subgroup of population in the sample by fixing a quota or fixed numbers of these subgroups. For example, to study the effect of social media on students' academic performance in different universities, and if percentage of female students are more than male students in these universities, we may fix a quota that we interviewed 70% female and 30% male students. And when the quota of interviews for any subgroup is reached, no further eligible elements from that subgroup are selected for sample. Whereas the snowball sampling is used when it is difficult to identify the elements of target population. For example, the studies related to drug addiction, gangster activities, or illegal migrants, as all these are very sensitive issues that make difficult to collect the data. So in this case, if one element can be identified, then this element is asked to identify the other elements of same target population. So in this way, the sample is built up in snowball sampling. Similarly, there are 4 probability-based sampling methods. The very first one is simple random sampling. In simple random sampling, each element in the population has an equal chance of being selected in the sample by using either lottery method or random numbers. For example, to interview boarding students about the quality of hostel mess, all the boarders' name write on slip of paper and place all the slips in a box. After the slips of paper have been thoroughly mixed, the first selection is made by drawing a slip of paper from the box. This process is repeated a required number of times to get desired sample. We can also pick the sample by generating random numbers, either using random table or generated through calculator. Similarly, to interview fuel brand performance in specific area, ensuring that every petrol station has the same chance of being included in simple random sampling. We can use lottery method or generate random numbers to select desired number of petrol stations. But when population is large, it may be difficult to select a representative sample by simple random sampling. So in this case, an alter to simple random sampling is systematic sampling. Systematic random sampling is used when a list of elements in population exists to be selected in the sample that should arrange in a specified order. To draw systematic sampling, first divide the number of elements in the population by required number of sample to determine the size of sampling block. Then randomly choose the first element within the first sampling block. Here we can use simple random sampling to select the first element randomly. Then choose subsequent elements at uniform interval just like that. Since only the first element is randomly selected, some randomness is sacrificed. For example, to draw systematic random sampling of 500 property owners from a dataset of 15,000 property owners, we proceed as: firstly, identify the size of sampling block. Then in next step, randomly select first element within the first 30 names by using either lottery method or random number table. Assume it is the 16th name on the list. The first sample is selected. Now we can select the other 499 elements at a constant interval from the previously sampled member. That is, but if selected elements are not present or correct, the same circle repeats within the frame itself. So in this case, the ideal way of selecting a representative sample, we can use either stratified sampling or cluster sampling. We use stratified sampling when population is assumed to be heterogeneous with respect to study variable, and then we make groups according to the specific categories. Each group under a specific category known as stratum, and together they are called as strata, so that the population elements within each stratum are relatively homogeneous. For example, students can be classified as male and female, boarders and non-boarders, similarly age groups, income groups, etc. These groups are different from each other, but together they cover the whole population. After making different groups, thereafter a random sample is drawn from each strata to select the elements in the sample. Whereas cluster sampling is used when elements are existing already in certain groups called natural groups or clusters, and we need not to make groups under specific categories, where each cluster is similar in profile to every other cluster. For example, labor force cluster within factories, accountant clusters within accounting firms, lawyer cluster within lawyer firm. A subset of cluster is then randomly selected for sampling. Cluster sampling tends to be used when population is geographically scattered. That's why it is also called area sampling. Now let's make a quick look on the difference between stratified sampling and cluster sampling. In stratified sampling, we make groups according to specific categories, where in cluster sampling we have natural groups. These groups are called strata in stratified sampling and clusters in cluster sampling. Unlike stratified sampling where strata are different from each other, clusters should be similar to each other. Elements are randomly selected from each strata, whereas in cluster sampling we need to select randomly some clusters first. Then elements are selected randomly in different stages or phases in selected clusters, so that accuracy may be questionable in cluster sampling. As elements selected from each strata, so that stratified sampling is more costly than cluster sampling, where we select only few clusters. And then elements are selected randomly from selected clusters. For example, if we desire to know the opinion of college students in a state with regard to examination system, then our target population will consist of total number of students in the colleges of the state. All the colleges in a state are considered as clusters that contain a certain group of students as natural groups. But if we make specific categories like private colleges and government colleges, so in this case we are using stratified sampling. Apart from all these, the selection of appropriate sampling methods totally depends upon study variable and availability of resources, on the basis of which we collect the data. Hope you learned a lot, and that's enough for today. Stay tuned.